And now we will hear from Yurii Sheliazhenko. He is a conscientious objector and human rights defender, as well as the executive secretary of the Ukrainian Pacifist Movement, which is an NGO founded in 2019 in order to defend, exercise, and protect the human rights to peace and conscientious objection to military service, as well as to educate on disarmament and a culture of peace. Yuri, the floor is yours now to share with us what the current situation is for conscientious objection in Ukraine in terms of numbers, how things have changed, and what the current situation is. Thank you.
Friends, good day. So wonderful to see a big crowd of fellow peace activists and conscientious objectors to military service here today. So indeed, the topic of peace gave prominence, and I'm grateful to Artyom and to Olga for wonderful presentations and for all your dedicated work helping people to understand old truth that it is better to live in peace with neighbors instead of killing each other. And Russian movement of conscientious objectors indeed under such persecutions by a dictatorial regime of Putin helps many Russian people to refuse to kill Ukrainians. I am so grateful to you for that. Despite in Ukraine there are some sentiments regarding Russian civil society opposition and so on. I am not sharing these sentiments and think it is a problem, a trauma, and I'm sure that in future, gradually, Ukrainian democratic activists and Russian democratic activists and human rights defenders will establish a dialogue for more just and peaceful future for both our countries. Indeed, your work, Artyom, Olga, helps to achieve our vision of better world, where everyone refuses to kill and there will be no wars. So I will share my presentation. I have some technical glitches on my side. I don't understand why it is, but I hope. Here it is. I hope you could see my presentation, right?
Yeah, we can see.
Great, thank you. I will talk today about repressions against conscientious objectors to military service in Ukraine, about our work in Ukrainian pacifist movement. Before Russian full-scale invasion, I mostly was busy with lecturing students in the university on legal theory and history. And I worked on my dissertation and I obtained a PhD in jurisprudence. And when current realities came, I found hard to apply knowledge of law amidst lawlessness. But still, Ukraine aspires to be a democratic society based on rule of law. And in Ukraine, it is position of government that we need to preserve rule of law and respect to human rights. You could see justice in peace plan of President of Ukraine, Volodymyr Zelensky. And I feel he genuinely wants peace. So it was just a shame how he was treated recently in White House. But anyway, nonviolent resistance to war is important. And Unfortunately, there is a loophole in peace plan of our government that we invest all our resources, human resources and material resources into defensive war against Russian aggression. And we had a lot of inspiring examples of nonviolent resistance to Russian aggression. For example, on this photo on the right, you could see how people in a small town Kryukivka with bare hands, without any weapons, stopped Russian tanks and make them to return. And there are hundreds of methods of nonviolent resistance, but in Ukraine, only a few enthusiasts worked on that. Unfortunately, our government don't support efforts aimed at nonviolent resistance and tries to subordinate nonviolent efforts to the armed forces of Ukraine. And it is not safe activity to advocate nonviolent resistance and conscientious subjection to military service in Ukraine. Freedom of expression here is seriously curtailed. You could read in Amnesty International reports about serious limitations of freedom of expression and speech aimed at advocacy of peace and human rights is especially subject to these limitations. Our organization, Ukrainian Pacifist Movement, advocate peace and human right to conscientious objection to military service and nonviolent resistance to Russian aggression. And it was a shock to me when once the security service of Ukraine knocked to my door. They searched my flat, seized computer and smartphone, and now I am under a trial, and I could be sentenced up to 5 years in prison. Thanks to Amnesty International, they reported about it. So I am a bit privileged because many people didn't had such international publicity, and I have, and probably because of that, prosecutor several times asked to postpone trial because there are a lot of problems with due process. And by the way, on the trials of conscientious objectors in Ukraine, indeed, there are a lot of procedural violations, not to say a basic violation of non-recognition of human right to conscientious objection to military service. And I was especially shocked when I had read in my indictment that supposedly I justified Russian aggression in a statement which actually condemns Russian aggression by a call for nonviolent resistance. They think that when you are calling for nonviolent resistance, it somehow justifies Russian aggression. No logics. It is just absurd. But this is what this is how security service of Ukraine fabricate cases, and this is because conscientious objection and draft evasion is a heated issue. People don't like war. People have a right to peace. It is human right to peace. And for many years, from Soviet time, there was a systemic denial of religious freedom and especially denial of right to conscientious objection, which could be traced to Lenin's decree on separation of church and state in 1918. Old story of denial of religious freedom, right? So what we see now, the army wrote to pacifists there is no such right to conscientious objection to military service. and they write in their official letters responses to any appeals and petitions that the right to alternative service is restricted to term-limited conscription in peacetime, not termless conscription in wartime. And Ukrainian Parliamentary Commissioner for Human Rights, the Ombudsman, usually wrote in response to petitions and complaints that Constitution of Ukraine should be amended to recognize right to conscientious objection. It is impossible, according to the Ombudsman, to do it during the war. And any argument that Ukraine already had treaties and there is already alternative service in constitution, they don't respond correctly to any legal arguments because it is just a pretext. It is perfectly known everywhere, including the Ministry of Defense, that if you interpret current legislation correctly, there is right to conscientious objection. Sometimes they are confusing it. In one letter, they are writing there is no right to conscientious objection. In another letter, they are writing there is right to conscientious objection in peacetime, and in wartime there is no such right, and people should be punished for draft evasion. So there is also a bit of bureaucratic uncertainty around here. And advocacy of right to conscientious objection in Ukraine, according again to the many letters of Parliamentary Commission for Human Rights, Parliamentary Commissioner for Human Rights is writing letters to pacifists, to conscientious objectors, that it is a threat to national security to advocate conscientious objection. And they're sending copies of these letters to Security Service of Ukraine. And in my case, they done the same. And I found in my criminal case such letters from Commissioner for Human Rights. Even if you are writing about tortures, and Ukraine is party to Convention on Prohibition of Tortures, even in this situation, instead of considering the complaint on the merits, they could write this nonsense about threat to national security from advocacy of right to conscientious objection. So help from parliamentary commissioner is minimal. And justice system, the same problems. Supreme Court of Ukraine.
Kriegsdienstverweigerer in Ukraine und Russland und Belarus.
Supreme Court of Ukraine, considering cases related to conscientious objection, usually wrote in judgments, and starting from Supreme Court, of course, lower courts started to do the same. They are writing that religious beliefs are nothing more than a pretext for a draft evasion. It is old Soviet time phrase. Supreme Court of Soviet Ukraine wrote that, and currently you could find the same formulation for persecution of conscientious objectors in judgments today. Military mobilization in Ukraine done with cruel treatment of people. Military recruitment centers are scandalously known as places where people are taken by force, deceived and pressured for conscription, threatened, beaten, and die in detention. A regime of closed borders and militarist police state was imposed to enforce conscription because of popular draft resistance. This regime includes harsh requirements of mandatory military registration and wearing military IDs that could be checked by police and military patrols at permanent and mobile checkpoints, and there is no exceptions for objectors, even those who were allowed in peacetime for alternative service, like, for example, a nuclear physicist and Christian pacifist Stepan Bilchenko. You see his photo on the right after encounter with military recruiters. He was asked by military ID he didn't had one, so he was forcibly taken to a recruitment center, and he refused to serve in army. He said that he was allowed to alternative non-military service in peacetime. They conscripted him anyway, and they are saying he jumped during the forcible transportation to military unit from the vehicle. Many people doubt that he jumped because people usually are beaten there. But anyway, of course, denial in human rights, it is serious pressure, and no wonder that people are staying true to their convictions, and violent responses to it. He is very slowly recovering. So you see this condition. Recent report of United Nations Office of High Commissioner for Human Rights reveals numerous cases of imprisonment of conscientious objectors and inhumane treatment and tortures. For example, you could see on screenshot a page from this report. It contains a quote from one of conscientious objectors. He was threatened to cut off vital parts of his body. A governmental working group was created as we in religious organization, Religious Society of Friends in Ukraine. It is our faith community of Quakers. We were led to work for ensuring that Ukrainian legislation will be changed to protect right to conscientious objection and access to alternative service in wartime. And we sent a lot of letters and requests, and we learned from this United Nations report that governmental working group created to consider introduction of alternative service in time of war. So we wrote a request, and we learned that alternative service discussed in this governmental working group without any representatives of churches, without any representatives of civil society. It is uncertain whether they even ready to consider any letters from civil society like our letter. But they are considering some amendments to allow alternative, so-called alternative service in the army and in the military industry, which is of course incompatible with any Christian or secular pacifist beliefs. And it is contrary to international human rights standards, which demands that alternative service should be compatible with religion or beliefs of conscientious objectors. So these current proposals, unfortunately, are not complying with human rights standards, and it is important to advocate such compliance. By the way, it is second governmental working group. A previous working group did nothing because the army insisted that no changes is needed and they don't need alternative service. Conscientious objectors, according to United Nations and according to reports of European Bureau for Conscientious Objection in Ukraine, are regularly imprisoned for their religion or beliefs incompatible with military service. For example, Article 336 of Criminal Code of Ukraine, evasion of conscription during mobilization is usually applied, and from the previous year to this, like from 2023 to 2024, a number of people imprisoned for conscientious objection was doubled. From 86 people to 179 people. Also, people could be punished for desertion. It is Article 408. It is up to 10 years of prison. and another articles of criminal code is unauthorized absence without leave, or for example, disobedience. Recently, a Baptist was sentenced for disobedience. He was promised by military recruiters that he could serve in army without weapons. And when he believed this promise, the first thing which he was commanded to do in army is to take his rifle, to wear uniform, to take oath, and so on. And he refused to take oath and wear this rifle. And he was tried and sentenced to 5 years of prison. There are internationally known prisoners of conscience in Ukraine. Dmytro Zelinsky, Seventh-day Adventist. He was imprisoned for 3 years, and it is interesting case because Constitutional Court of Ukraine took this constitutional complaint. It is rare. Usually they are seeking any pretext for not considering constitutional complaints. He complained that there is no alternative service in the wartime. And there were signs that they are going to just quickly deny in this complaint. But I managed quickly to file amicus curiae brief in Constitutional Court attaching 100.5 pages of Ukrainian translations of judgments of European Court for Human Rights and other international documents on right to conscientious objection. So they took a pause. They asked amicus curiae brief from Venice Commission in Council of Europe. And Venice Commission published a news item on their website that they're going to adopt such amicus curiae brief for Constitutional Court of Ukraine in the middle of the March. So I will say in the end few words that there is opportunity for intervention from civil society. And Jehovah's Witnesses recently informed that in January their member, long-time member, Vitaly Kryushchenko, you see his photo with wife Olga, was imprisoned also for 3 years. He is now behind the bars, unfortunately. Also, strategic case with which I am working for a long time, former prisoner of conscience Vitaly Alexeyenko, with our legal aid, managed to secure suspended sentence. He was released from prison by Supreme Court after international pressure. He was in prison only 1 month instead of 1 year. But instead of proper acquittal, Supreme Court decided there should be a retrial, and he was sentenced again, but with suspended sentence, not real prison sentence. And this January, Supreme Court, despite prosecutor asked to give him real prison sentence, with our help, he managed to insist on suspended sentence, and he is determined to work for his acquittal, and we are working on complaint to Constitutional Court of Ukraine. There are 2 recent scandalous cases of persecution of pacifist Christians. It is a typical case. There are many similar cases, but what I could highlight today. And it is cases where we are working to help people. Pastor Alexander Solonets from Church Restoration Temple in Kherson was forcibly conscripted on a checkpoint when he carried a group of children in travel for rehabilitation. He is detained in military unit. He is in this military unit a month currently. and commanders are deaf to requests of his family and religious community. His religious community recorded wonderful video with a crowd of people, with senior pastor praying for his release, but commanders are deaf, and his family receives letters like no religious beliefs could be a pretext for draft evasion. It is a shame, such denial of human rights. And Valentin Adamchuk, evangelical Christian here in Kiev, was sentenced by Darnitsky district court to 3 years of prison. By the way, this district court regularly violates procedural rights. When I came to this court to hearings of Jehovah's Witness, they even failed to make public hearings. They tried him with closed doors. So, with the help of Ukrainian pacifist movement, Valentin submitted appellate complaint. There are blatant falsification in this case. I hope at least it could be mitigated, or preferably Valentin should be recognized innocent in draft evasion because he legitimately exercised his right to conscientious objection. So to conclude, ideas of practical solutions to the challenges I described. We need to continue active human rights defending and peace work. We need to make worldwide publicity to all cases of denial in right to conscientious objection, in mistreatment of conscientious objectors, and of course it is important to give more publicity not only to Ukrainian cases like this I described, but also to serious problems of Russian and Belarusian conscientious objectors, because it is a shame when Putin declared foreign agents, which mean enemies of the state, Russian movement of conscientious objectors, such dictatorial attitude of a regime waging a war of aggression against Ukraine, it is painful. Maybe the same painful when, Russian drone recently exploded behind my window, and window was broken, and it was a moment of pain, and the same pain I fear when I learn how badly our conscientious objectors are treated in Ukraine, in Russia, and anywhere else. We need to protect our right to refuse to kill. Also, I think we need to make more petitions, international petitions, to Ukrainian President Zelensky, to our parliament, individually to every member. There are instruments of electronic petitioning to make it economically. Petition to government asking to adhere to international standards of protection and promotion of human right to conscientious objection to military service. Ukrainian Quakers already did some of such petitions, but international petitions could attract more serious attention, I hope. Also, petition to Venice Commission is needed to indeed ask Constitutional Court to take into consideration international standards like judgments of European Court of Human Rights. We know, for example, that in case Mushfik Mamadov and others against Azerbaijan, European Court of Human Rights ruled that even the necessity to defend territorial integrity of the country is no excuse for absence of alternative service. And these standards and decisions of Human Rights Committee in United Nations need to be a basis for serious changes in legislation of Ukraine. And it would be very good if legal scholars, maybe former judges, anyone with a name in legal society in Europe submit an amicus curiae brief to Constitutional Court of Ukraine in Zelensky case, because procedural law allows to submit amicus curiae briefs to Constitutional Court of Ukraine. Again, insisting on international standards and asking the court to rule that absence of alternative service in wartime is unconstitutional. Also, we need to continue educational efforts to educate people in Ukraine and in the world for peace and human rights. It is a basis of culture of peace, according to United Nations Declaration on Culture of Peace. And we in Ukraine started the Free Civilians School of Pacifism to educate people on the nature of pacifism, right to peace, right to conscientious objection, nonviolent protection of peace, and organization of peaceful future, where we discuss current network of peace organizations and institutional basis of peaceful life without wars. And one another issue, legal society, the bar, its position is important for human rights standards in the country, because judges listen more attentively and read more carefully submissions of licensed lawyers. They usually not very attentive to what regular people are talk and write in to the courts. So I am working and I am thinking about engagement, and it is important training of licensed lawyers. It might be very expensive because lawyers, licensed lawyers, it is so-called monopoly, and they are spoiled by a lot of income. When very rich people could throw them thousands and tens of thousands of dollars or euro to for results. And there is, of course, many corruption schemes. And when it came to regular people just asking to protect their human rights, lawyers, usually licensed lawyers, people who are privileged in courts, usually say to people that human rights is not argument in court. You should seek just for opportunities to obtain some lenient attitude to you, like even admit your guilt, even if you are not guilty. Since you could not defend your rights because you know this is court practice and so on, if you admit your guilt, you maybe receive the more mild sentence. Though this maybe is very huge maybe, because, for example, Alexeyenko, before we started to help Vitaly Alexeyenko, he agreed with prosecutor to suspend the sentence, and he was deceived. He was given real prison sentence, just because in court he said that he was true to the word of God. So we need to work with lawyers, and we need to find good benefactors, because to train lawyers for human rights defense work needs
Yurii,
a lot of expenses.
I don't want to interrupt,
thank
but
you.
yeah, thank
I
you.
am concluding.
Because we are running out of time. Thank you.
Yes, so I invite you to find Ukrainian pacifist movement and stay in touch. Let's work together for peace in the world, because indeed all wars will cease when people will refuse to kill each other. And I am sure that civil society, in absence of goodwill of governments to support nonviolent resistance efforts, civil societies could create civil society network for nonviolent resistance to work, continuing the century-old effort of War Resistance International.